Here's to a steady hand.
Howdy femboys and girls, it is your boy Sleazy back again with another video. And recently I saw that Stalker 2 had been announced, and I figured this would be the perfect time for me to go back and play a game that has been sitting in my Steam library untouched for many years now. And that was Stalker Call of Pripyat. And let me just say, I had never played a Stalker game before this, and after playing through this game a singular time, I instantly knew that I had to make a video and talk about it because it is one of the best and most unique experiences I've ever had playing a video game. Now, for those of you who don't know what Stalker is, it's basically a sort of alternate history survival horror game set in what's known as the exclusion zone of Chernobyl. See, in the Stalker series, after the Chernobyl disaster, a secret government laboratory was set up there, and all of a sudden, all of these anomalies, all of these mutants started pouring out into what is known as the exclusion zone.
Despite the disaster, the Chernobyl NPP continues to operate. The existence of a power station, as well as the fact that the area is no longer inhabited, leads the Council of Ministers of the USSR to set up a network of secret laboratories in the exclusion zone. June 11th, 2006. The exclusion zone lights up with a flash of blinding light as clouds can be seen evaporating in the sky. After a moment of complete silence, a peal of thunder shakes the ground. Most of the government forces guarding the perimeter are killed instantly. 2008. Scientists are still unable to explain what happened. Rare expeditions into the zone usually end in tragedy, with survivors telling stories of mutated animals with incredible abilities roaming the area.
And with these anomalies came what's called anomaly artifacts, which are basically relics with certain types of powers that people called stalkers will go into the exclusion zone to try and hunt and sell back for a profit. Now, Call of Pripyat is actually a sequel to a game called Stalker Shadows of Chernobyl, and in Stalker Shadows of Chernobyl, only the outer perimeters of the exclusion zone were actually accessible. This is because of something called the Brain Scorcher, which basically kept anybody from getting into the deeper parts of Chernobyl itself. But in that game, a man called Strelok is able to disable the brain scorcher.
2012. A stalker called Strelok solves the secret of the brain scorcher, a man-made emitter that had blocked the way to the center of the zone for years. After the brain scorcher is disabled, all stalkers rush for the center of the zone. Some in hopes of finding a treasure trove of artifacts, others in search of the wish grant.
And this leads into the events of Stalker Call of Pripyat, because now with the brain scorcher destroyed, the Ukrainian military wants to undertake something called Operation Fairway, which is where they will send in recon helicopters and teams to go and sort of scout the deeper areas of the zone as sort of a staging for a larger attack on the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. There's only one problem with this plan, and that's that once the helicopters got into the zone, they all mysteriously went offline with no real trace or idea of exactly what caused it or what happened to the crews on board.
The government decides to launch a large-scale military operation. Operation Fairway, as it came to be known, involves using maps of anomaly fields to maneuver helicopters to the CNPP. Despite meticulous preparation, the operation is a failure, and none of the helicopters return from the mission. Major Degtyarev, a USS special agent, is sent into the zone to investigate the disappearance of the helicopters. Disguised as a stalker, equipped with a regular assault rifle, 2 weeks' worth of supplies, and a radio to communicate with HQ, the Major begins his journey towards the center of the zone.
And that's where you come in. See, you are a military operator who's sent into the zone undercover as a stalker to try and figure out what happened to these helicopters and what caused them to go down, as well as what happened to whatever crew might have survived.
Information on the onboard computer. Okay. So Stingray 3 had engine failure in both engines. What else is there? A map with what look like possible evacuation locations. Positions B2, B28, and B205. Interesting.
Along with this, you find out that the helicopters were actually taken down by some sort of electrical shock to their systems.
The electronics are the same here, but the emission protection system is intact. What could have caused this?
And with one of them, you even find a black box that tells you that the people who managed to survive these crashes are now hiding out somewhere around Pripyat.
2 bodies. Looks like they died in the crash. Everything of value has been looted and the onboard computer has been wiped clean. But the black box is still intact. Interesting. I reckon a decent technician will be able to extract the information on it and decode it.
Unfortunately, as far as anybody knows, there's no easy way, or any way really at all, to get from Yanova to Pripyat. So this leads you on a path where you're forced to find different documents that reveal the location of an underground tunnel system as you go around and recruit people to come with you and help you brave the dangers that will come along with this journey.
So, the underpass was filled with gas after it was sealed.
And this is one of my favorite sections of the game, and I really feel like it points out what makes Stalker so good, because not only is the environment absolutely incredible, walking through these dark ruined tunnels as monsters pop out of the walls and you're forced to dodge anomalies left, right, and center, as different factions such as Mercenary and Monolith try and attack you and stop you from progressing. But also, before you're setting off on this adventure, you meet with a man named Zulu, and he goes over the plans with you and basically encourages you to find a crew of people to help you go through these tunnels. And the more side quests you've done and the more people you've helped, the more options that you'll have in terms of people to join you. So yes, you could just go straight from point A to point B, collecting all of these different helicopters without doing any side content, and skip straight to this part. But you're actually rewarded in a very natural feeling way for doing side content and making these connections. Now, as you make your way through the tunnels and survive all of the dangers and ambushes that come with it, you come up into the streets of Pripyat, and you meet the military that you had been looking for this entire time. But your job's not finished yet, because although you know that these helicopters were taken down by some sort of electrical field, and you were able to find the military evacuation that you were looking for, you're still unsure of exactly what was causing this. Whether it be anomalies from, the Chernobyl itself, or some sort of factional intervention. And that's exactly what the military leader suggests that it could be. A super weapon that's known to be in the hands of Monolith. Now, the next section of the game is all about figuring out the mystery of Monolith, because we've never really seen them before in the game up to this point, and we don't really understand much about them. So your first step in doing that is following the military along for an ambush to try and recover this so-called super weapon. So as you set up the ambush, and you kill those who you suspect to be carrying it, as you start looking through the bodies, it turns out that this was all an elaborate plan from Monolith, and they knew the whole time that this ambush was going to be coming. And so they counter-ambush, and now it becomes a fight for your life. And after clearing out all of the Monolith fighters and surviving the ambush, on one of their bodies you will find this so-called railgun. But just like everything thus far, there's another mystery to uncover here. And that's that nobody in the military, and seemingly nobody else in the exclusion zone, knows exactly what the railgun is or how it works, as well as the fact that it being completely destroyed, they can't even use it for testing to see if it could possibly be what took down the helicopters. But one man, the drunken mechanic from the beginning of the game, turns out to actually be a former engineer for a secret project to develop this railgun. And he's able to give you the security key to get you into a secret research facility where you're able to get the notes on how this thing was constructed and bring them back so the railgun can be fixed. Once the railgun is fixed and you bring it back to the military leaders, it kind of dawns on everybody that the railgun is simply used to propel a projectile. It uses electromagnets to propel a projectile extremely quickly. And that's not exactly correspondent to the damages found on the helicopters. So it must be something else. And this something else is revealed to us when we're tasked by the military members to track down a mysterious radio signal that they believe to be Monolith planning an attack.
I spoke to the HQ commander and reported the situation to him along with all the information that's been collected. There won't be any helicopter support for a while. He suggested that we fortify our position and await further orders. USS observers are currently at the HQ, so you'll be able to talk to your superiors soon enough.
Colonel, a radio signal has been detected, and its source is not far from the base. The transmission is encrypted, and I haven't been able to crack it yet.
Do you have the coordinates?
Yes, I have the coordinates, but the signal is intermittent, and it's moving.
Monolith again?
I'll check.
But it turns out to be a man named Strelok. That's right, the same Strelok from Shadows of Chernobyl that took down the brain scorcher. And he's looking for your help, and the military's help, because his original idea between taking down the brain scorcher was to actually destroy, basically, the exclusion zone forever, to stop all of this that's been going on. But unfortunately, he was unable to do it by himself, and so he needs to take the information that he has to the Ukrainian military, and he needs your help to do it. But he also mentioned something very important, a very vital piece of information, and that's that the anomaly maps that were given to the pilots during Operation Fairway were basically useless.
Don't shoot. I'm headed to the main entrance.
Who are you?
My name is Strelok.
You're the Stalker who disabled the Scorcher?
Yes, but my plan didn't work. I came here to speak with your commanders. I have information that will allow the army to to take control of the zone and destroy it.
And the mission is starting.
Come, let's talk inside.
We've got a problem. Our choppers are crashing for reasons that we've not understood yet.
Until we work it out, there won't be any helicopter support. The only way to get to the borders of the zone is on foot.
The reasons are obvious. There are many anomalies in the air, especially in the center of the zone.
We had a map with the safe air corridor between anomalies, and the helicopters had emission protection systems.
That's odd. You're telling me you haven't noticed that anomalies move around after an emission. Some disappear, and new ones show up in different places, which makes your map of anomalies effectively useless.
So that's what it is.
What?
Emissions don't just follow one another. If you can scan the area and identify all the anomalies, the choppers will be able to collect us safely, provided they're dispatched right after an emission.
We must inform the HQ of this as soon as possible.
I'll contact my commanders right after the emission.
And with this revelation, we're finally able to get in contact with our headquarters and relay the information. Our job here has been done. We figured out what happened to Operation Fairway. We found the soldiers at the extraction point. And now we simply need to get out of the exclusion zone as quickly as possible and deliver Strelok and his information as well. But Monolith won't let that happen so fast. See, as the helicopters come in, it is your job to protect Strelok and fight off hordes and hordes of mercenary zombies and Monolith members as you fight your way to the final helicopters before boarding and finally leaving the exclusion zone.
I hope it was worth it.
And that's the basic plot of the game. Now there's a lot more, and it goes a lot more in depth, but I don't want to go into every little detail because I do want you to play the game for yourself. It's very, very good, and that's sort of the whole point of this video, is to convince you that this is a game worth playing. Now the ending you get will be determined basically on how you interacted with the factions, the bandits, freedom, duty, what side quests you did, what side quests you didn't do, and this brings me into what I find to be my favorite part of the game, because if you were to just jump from point A to point B without doing any sort of, side content or exploring the world at all, I feel like you could easily finish this game in between 6 to 8 hours, but my first playthrough was 16 hours, so about half of my playtime, if not more, was just enjoying the world and enjoying the side content. So, next I want to give you basically some of my favorite side content, what I thought was some of the best stuff. And I'm going to start that with probably my favorite faction, the Bandits. The Bandits are very poorly equipped, usually just carrying basic AKs. They don't have very much armor, usually just wearing like a leather trench coat and a balaclava. And they also say funny words like cheeky breeky. But I have a soft spot in my heart for the Bandits because it was a bandit quest that really made me get invested into the game. See, Stalker sort of has a harsh learning curve. It's very tricky to just pick up and begin playing. There's a lot of like sort of small details and minutia, and there's not a lot of direction. There's no like point A to point B. This isn't Skyrim, dog, alright? But when I was first playing, and I went into the hub world, there was a bandit who waved me over and said that he had a job for me. And me not knowing, anything about anything or not knowing where I'm supposed to go or what I'm supposed to do, I saw this as a good, introductory point. And basically, he told me about a man named the Sultan, who's basically the leader of the bandits in the first sort of like hub area. And he wanted me to come along on a job to rob stalkers out of their equipment and artifacts. And obviously, me having very little supplies and very little money, I said yes. And it was one of the funnest quests I've ever done. I felt so cool sneaking around in the dark with my MP5, shimmying my way through before a massive gunfight erupts. And in all the darkness and confusion and this guy shooting at this guy and I don't know who's who, I found myself, for the first time playing the game, being fully immersed in the world. This then led into another quest where you meet up with them at the ranger station in order to do a deal with basically a mercenary working with duty to sell artifacts in exchange for better guns and equipment. This goes bad and there's another shootout. And it really sort of brought me into the world. It gave me a sense of investment in, and also, money and equipment, so I was better equipped to deal with the world outside. And it led into a long, long quest line where you eventually end up giving the bandits control over this little hub area, and you can then start collecting dues, basically, extorting the people who stay there. It also gave me an understanding of some crucial elements of how to play Stalker, in that any NPC, no matter how background they look, is worth talking to, because you never know when they might have a quest. You never know when they might have a useful piece of information, because a lot of times when doing a Stalker quest, it will simply say, hey, figure this thing out. Go find information about this. And you have to actively think about who might know that information, what factions might know about this, where in the world might I find something related to this. And it's a really nice, refreshing breath of fresh air in comparison to how a lot of games, especially modern games, have been doing things in sort of, hey, go find out about this, and then there's a direct map marker on exactly where you need to go and exactly who you need to talk to. It was really refreshing to see a game give and put faith in the player to be able to sort of figure things out on their own and work through the world. So now that I've talked at length about the sort of story and the side quests and why I feel like they're very unique and very different from a lot of things and what makes them so compelling, I'd like to talk about the gameplay, because the gameplay I feel like is the biggest hurdle or the biggest learning curve when it comes to playing a Stalker game, and it's a big reason why I didn't play it for such a long time. Now, I kind of touched on this in the side quest portion of the video, but a big thing that you'll find out with Stalker is the importance of just talking to people, especially in these sort of hub zones where there are a lot of NPCs where you can buy and sell things, stuff like that. It's very important to talk to NPCs, even if it just seems like they're sitting around doing nothing, because they may have a quest for you, and once you have a quest or a direction, it's significantly easier for you to sort of enjoy the gameplay and enjoy the loop and figure things out slowly over time. Because a lot of the beginning quests are sort of designed to one degree or another to teach you about the basic mechanics of how the game works. Now, the second part of gameplay, or the second part of gameplay loop, is hunting for artifacts. Now, on your PDA, which basically acts as your map/guide, like quest log, there will be different areas marked as anomalous zones, or different points of interest marked on the map. But the ones that contain anomalies will be named as anomalous zones, or have a certain name for what it is, like the circus anomaly, the warped tree anomaly, stuff like that. And you can basically go to these places, and from the beginning of the game you have what's sort of known as like an anomaly detector. It basically lets you know when you are nearby to an anomaly, and there's different tiers to how this anomaly detector works. The first tier simply emits a beeping noise that gets faster as you get closer to an anomaly. The second tier does the same thing, but it also has a light indicator that tells you which general direction the anomaly is in. And then there's a third level that is a map that shows you, it's sort of like a radar sweep, like a heartbeat monitor, that shows you where exactly in a given area that anomaly is. And then there's a fourth tier that's only unlockable through a side quest that not only shows you anomaly treasures that you can pick up, but also hostile anomalies, and basically lays them out in the same heartbeat scanner manner, where you can see exactly how close you are or exactly where a dangerous anomaly is placed. Stalker is a great game, in my opinion, because Stalker is a game that's about unraveling mystery. It's a game that has faith in the player's intelligence to be able to figure things out on their own. Everything about it is just unfamiliar and alien, and is a big mystery that is sort of waiting for you to figure it out. Everything from the factions such as stalkers and bandits that work on a very base level, to more intricate factions such as duty and freedom and the different intricacies between their ideologies and how they operate. And then up to, worshipping freak cults who worship anomalies and antennas and get messages through radio signals like Monolith, down to anomalies and how they work and where do they come from, and is there some greater secret? Are they just a natural occurrence, or are they actively being produced by the people at Chernobyl? And that's why the game is so engaging as you go through it, because every little bit of progress, every time you make it a little bit further, every time you find one more helicopter from Operation Fairway, every time you take out one more nest of monsters, every time you explore one more new location, or you get a new piece of equipment, it's like you've solved another step in the puzzle. And it really feels rewarding, not just because you got something new to play with, or you got a new area to explore, or you got some more loot, but because it feels like you are one step closer to understanding the exclusion zone, and it makes you feel more in control and like you know what you are doing within the exclusion zone, to the point where when you get to the end and it's time for you to get onto the evacuation helicopter, you sort of almost have some level of hesitation because you've become so used to how to operate in the exclusion zone, and you've figured out so much about how to go about surviving in the exclusion zone that it almost is bittersweet to leave. Because just as you're figuring out the mystery, it's over. That was my thoughts on Stalker, Call of Pripyat, and what makes it such a good game. I felt like with Stalker 2's release happening very soon, or potentially already happening depending on when this video comes out, that it was a good time to just talk about it. For people, because there's probably going to be a lot more interest in Stalker as a franchise right now. And I figured it would be really cool to, tell people about this game that I just experienced for the first time and why they should maybe think about going and experiencing it for the first time. I know that a lot of the things that I said probably didn't make the most sense, or probably weren't the most, eloquent way of putting things, but, forgive me, I'm not exactly the best at this kind of stuff, and there was no real script for it. It was kind of just me talking from the heart about a game that I like. But yeah, so if you haven't played the game yet, I would suggest please go out and try it. You will not regret it. It is a very good game. And yeah, that's all I have. See ya.